everyone. This is a tutorial for using VoiceThread, which is a software that allows you to put in image files, anything like a movie or a PDF or a JPEG, anything that's image-based, to drop into this program, and allows you to have conversations on that content. So what you're seeing right now on this screen is somebody talking while they're actually drawing on an image, and they're leaving comments over on the side. So I'm going to walk you through how to navigate this program, how to create your own threads, and show you how to kind of set up threads so that they're optimal for either having your work reviewed by somebody, or giving a presentation, or even giving a lecture. When I sign in, I have a lot of threads in here because I use VoiceThread a lot. And there's also a number of tutorials here that I've created in recent weeks, given that we're moving to an online format. So when you log on, you're going to basically see nothing here because you don't have any threads that have been created or shared with you, I'm assuming. So let me just show you a couple things up here. To get to this screen, you just press home. So you'll see that that's going to refresh for me. If I go to browse, you're going to see that there's some content that's already loaded into the program. And if you're interested in additional tutorials, you can find those here. You can also find those by going again back to home and going to this menu. You'll see tutorials, and you'll get to that same screen. So if there's something in this tutorial that's not being covered, you might be able to find it here. So where we're actually going to start is going to be create. And this is where all threads really begin. And to add content, you can simply use this mechanism that will allow you to choose different media sources. So if you open that up, it's going to open up whatever file. I press cancel. But what I like to do is just drag and drop. So I have a couple images here ready to go. And let's just start with this first image that I dropped in. When you put in an initial medium into a thread, it's going to give you this prompt. And at that time, you can give it a title, and you can put in playback settings. So let's go ahead and call this VoiceThread Tutorial Spring 2020. And I have all these playback options. And what's nice about setting these up right now is you can press default, and that will make it so any additional threads you open follow that. So right now, this is opening up following whatever settings I last used for a VoiceThread, if I had pressed save as default. So I want to walk through a couple of these. And just so you know, you don't have to set this up right away. You can always go in and set these up later, but it's going to prompt you to do it as soon as you drop in your initial image. So I want to explain what some of these are. Enable threaded commenting. This means that you can create nested comments, and I'll show you what that means, but I'm going to go ahead and click it. Allow commenters to add slides to this VoiceThread. I leave this on if I'm doing any type of project review, because it allows many people to add in additional content. So let's say a student is working on a project and I say, oh my gosh, you should look at this other project. It might help you resolve this thing. So it would allow me to upload something into the slides. Allow others to download original media. Because we are working in an online environment right now, I think that this is a nice thing to have, so a student could download something. Allow others to export. I usually don't click this because that just means you're exporting the whole thread into a movie file. It does cost money. I've never actually used it, but you're welcome to try it. Start playing when opened. I usually don't click this because I like to have control over when the sound starts. Allow others to make a copy. I've never really bothered with that. Enable comment moderation. This is actually really helpful for instructors. You could put up an image and try to get feedback on it without other students knowing what others are writing about it. So there's some interesting things you can do with comment moderation. But also, if you have a discussion going that is maybe a little bit heated, or you're just wanting to make sure that all the comments that are going out there are friendly, if you click this, basically you're going to have to approve every comment. So I'm not going to click it right now, but it's something you might want to do if it's like a lecture or a presentation. Automatically advance slides after 4 seconds. I usually don't do these because it's just kind of annoying. Don't allow commenters to delete their own comments. I've never felt the need to use that. Limit each comment to 60 minutes in whatever second. So if I click on this, I could change it. I could say, okay, 10 minutes is the max. I have used this before, but I'm not going to use it right now. Where it does come in handy is sometimes people have the tendency to leave really long comments, which is not necessarily VoiceThread friendly. So it's nice to limit the length of how long people are talking. This is really handy if you're trying to set it up like a Pecha Kucha format where you only have so long to talk before the next slide moves forward. So I'm going to go ahead and unclick that for now. Comment methods, this is really important. I typically only use the microphone in the file upload if I'm working with students on their design work. I mean, even if it's just for like a presentation. Webcam, I just don't find it necessary. If we're looking at visual content, it just doesn't seem as necessary that you can see each other's faces, but you're welcome to try it. Telephone, I've never used, so I don't really know about that. The text, this is really handy if you are doing like a presentation or a lecture. Because it can allow students to ask silent questions. But typically I leave it unchecked if the purpose of the thread is to get feedback, like from a professor or from other students, because students tend to default to typing their comments instead of actually speaking them. So, and then there's less kind of richness to the quality of those comments. So I typically leave that off and I don't allow it. Okay, so if I press save as default, it's going to make it so the next thread that I start is going to adhere to those settings. Now, if I ever want to go back and get those settings, I can just come up to options and I can get it right there. Okay, same thing here. If I ever wanted to edit the name of this, I would be able to get it right here and then playback options. So there's a couple different ways to get to the same place. The other thing up here that I didn't talk about is cover art. If you don't choose cover art, it's just going to use whatever the first images that you dropped in. And really all cover art is doing is it's showing you, it's basically controlling what that image is in that home screen. So I'm not going to do anything for that. So if I go to my home screen, you can see that it took my first image on all these. Actually, I guess it's not. Yeah, there it is. Okay, so I'm going to click back into this. And you can see when I clicked on it from home, it's just immediately going to that page. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and get out of that because I'm not quite done setting this thread up yet. Okay, so I'm going to go down here to edit, and I'm going to get back into the same screen. Now I want to actually add more images in here. So I'm just going to drag and drop 2 JPEGs, and they have to process, and I can actually individually name each image if I want as well. It also gives you the option to swap out the image, and if you do that, it actually retains the comments. So there's a couple little things you have to be careful with that, but just know that you have that option. Once I have multiple images in here, I can just drag these to the order that I want them. Okay, so another thing I can drop in is a PDF. Okay, really you can drop in anything that's image-based, including a movie, but we're not going to do a movie, but you should maybe watch the tutorial on that just to see how that works. Okay, so because this is a PDF and it has like several slides to it, it's going to take a little bit longer to process. But when it does load, it's going to load one image for each slide of that PDF, and it's going to do it in order. So as we're waiting for it to process here. There we go. All right, so the PDF I dropped in, this was the cover page, then this was the second slide, third slide, fourth slide, fifth slide, and so on. So I can reorder those, right, just like I can any other of the slides. Okay. All right. So you do want to be cautious when you're reordering things, just because if I have a comment on any of these slides, those comments stick to those slides. So if I'm giving a lecture and this is supposed to be the opening kind of remarks, and this is supposed to be the first topic in the lecture, if I flip those, all of a sudden my opening remarks are going to appear as the second kind of VoiceThread slide. So you just want to be a little bit aware of flipping things around if this is a presentation or a lecture, especially if you've already made comments on any of these. All right, looks like we are, and I'm just going to go ahead and actually delete some of these. And notice it says when I delete it, it might delete comments. It's going to delete comments that are on those slides as well. Okay, I'm just going to reduce it just so we have a more simple kind of thread going. All right, so time to actually make comments. So I could start here, and it would just start me on that first page, and I could start making comments. But I could also, from home, okay, I could click on that, and it would put me on the first page. So there's a couple different ways to get to the opening page. All right, to make comments, you have an icon down here. When I click on this, it's just going to give me the options that I had specified when I did the settings. So if you recall, I chose the microphone and the file upload. So you're not going to see a webcam, you're not going to see text unless you actually choose those options. So to make my first comment here, I'm just going to click on the microphone. So now it is recording me, and as I'm talking, I can draw, and that will fade, and I can actually even skip around from page to page. And right now, all my activity is being recorded. Okay, so when I stop it, it's going to upload it and play it back to me to check. So now it is recording me. And as I'm talking, I can draw. Okay, so we're not going to listen to that whole thing. It looked good, so I approved it. And so now it processed it, and it has populated. It has basically showed up on the sidebar. This is where all your comments populate. So once it's there, I could just click on it. So now it is recording me, and I can play it back. So this is a good opportunity to show you this feature, which allows you to speed stuff up, which is really helpful if you're listening to a lecture or a long critique of your work. I find that, bumping it up to like 1.5 even, you can still hear everything and still, get all the information, but it gets through faster. So now it is recording me, and as I'm talking, I can draw, and that will fade, and I can actually even skip around from page to page. And right now, all my activity is being recorded. Okay, so that's how it works. So, oops, let me go back to normal. So if I leave an additional comment, that comment got stacked underneath the first comment. And as I click on these, you can see down at the bottom that this is the long comment, and this is the short comment. So as a thread moderator, one thing that I can do is I can move these around. So as I do that, notice that where the short and the long comment are, they shift. right? So that's helpful sometimes if you're doing a presentation or a lecture and maybe two ideas were out of order. That becomes handy. Now, this is a good opportunity to mention that your comments, you want to leave them kind of short, and you want to make sure that your comments are living on the slide that they belong. This first comment jumped around. I went from this slide to this slide to this slide, and sometimes that's okay if you're reviewing work, for critique. However, in a presentation or a lecture, it can become confusing because if a student is looking at this image and trying to recall what was said about it, I have no populated comments here because the original comment discussing that page started over here. So again, I recommend that you try to keep your comments on the actual page that they originated, just so students can find that. I also think it's better to have a lot of really short comments than one long comment. It's just easier to navigate really for everybody. Okay, and by the way, this button down here allows you to see all the images in there and make editing, reordering, just gives you kind of that editing opportunity. All right, this is also a good opportunity to show you where comments can be nested, because if you recall, that was another one of those settings that we checked. So if a student heard me make this comment and wanted to ask a question about it, they could click here and they could say, it says reply to Dr. J. They could say, hey, I didn't understand what you meant by that. Okay, well, they could say, okay. And as you can see, as that comment is processing, it has, it's attached. It's like a threaded comment, all tied back to this original comment that I had made. And so another student could click on that, and they could say, yeah, I was confused by that also. And upload that. And so you can see that it's just continuing to build onto that idea. There is another feature here, closed captioning. Now, if this is something you're interested in, this is nothing I've ever actually used, just because nobody has requested it. But if you do want to use it, be sure to let one of your professors know. It takes time to process, but we can certainly take care of that for you if that's something that would be helpful in your learning, especially using this tool. Okay, all right, we have comments on here. And again, there's no comments over here because we never added any. So let's go ahead and add one on. Okay, what the heck is this? Is this a horse or a zebra? All right, we'll let that process. Okay, so now you can see that this has a comment stuck to it. So if you're a student listening to if this is an actual lecture, you would want to start with this first slide, listen to all the comments, and then go to the next slide. All right, listen to all the comments. Go to the next slide, listen to all the comments. And obviously, if there's no comments on one of them, that means there's nothing to listen to there. So a tip for instructors, if you are giving a lecture using VoiceThread, I do recommend that you, in your slides, either Google Slides or PowerPoint, however you're actually making your slides, I recommend that you put page numbers down here just so students can make proper notes as they're viewing the presentation. All right. Let's go ahead and show you how to share your slides. So I'm going to go ahead and get out of this for a second and just start from the home screen again. And there's a couple different ways you can share or get to the sharing screen. I'm going to go ahead and come here. It says share. And when I click on it, you're going to see, well, what it shows for me is a bunch of groups that I've set up. And I've done this for each of my classes. And I've done this because it just makes it easier to kind of send really quickly a thread to everybody who's enrolled in my class. You can set up your own groups, but you can't really do it until you set up contacts. So when I click on my contacts, you can see that I have a lot of different contacts in here because I've been teaching and using this for a while. So start by actually adding some contacts in here. For if you're an instructor, I suggest that you add in all of your student contacts that are going to be using this. And if you are a student, I recommend that you add in your professor's contacts. So let's say I wanted to share my thread with Professor Dunham. She's already a contact in here, so all I have to do is select her. And I can say, all right, do I want to let her view it, comment, edit? And really, if I was sharing it with her, I would want her to do all of those. And I would definitely want to let her know by email that I've sent her a thread. So that is the easiest way to share your threads with people. Now, if you come up here to basic, you're going to see this option to just copy a link for anybody to view and comment. That's definitely a really easy way to get your thread to people. However, if you send this to 10 people, you need to be aware that you're going to get 10 emails requesting access, because this does not automatically give them access. You still actually have to give them permission. So just something to think about. I think this way is actually a little bit more streamlined. If you're ever wondering who has access to your thread, you can click here and it will show you exactly who has access, and you could either revoke it at that time or you could change the parameters of their access. And this is the option I had talked about before concerning exporting. This is where you would actually export your thread to turn it into a movie file. Okay. All right, so I could share it that way, or from within the thread, I could also come up to this hamburger menu and go to share, and it would pull up that same screen. All right, so that's how you share. That's how you make a thread. That's how you share a thread. That's how you comment on a thread. Let's see, there's probably a couple more things I could share with you. Notifications. If you come up to your account, when you open that up, you should be able to see this thing right here. It says notifications, and you can select how you're going to be notified and what you're going to be notified about. When you do get a notification from email and you click on it, it's going to send you directly to the VoiceThread page. This is where it's going to indicate if you have comments that need to be reviewed. So if you have 8 comments, it will show an 8, and this will be highlighted as yellow. And it will allow you to scroll through those and click directly on the comment. And when you do that, it will open it up. It will actually open up the thread and open up the exact page where that comment lives. You'll also see a notification on individual threads. So if there was a notification on here with only 1 comment, there would be an indicator that pops up that's yellow, and it would have a 1 in it. So when I click on that one, you can see that it immediately went to that thread from Daniel, and then I could press play, and then I could listen to what he wrote. Okay. Another thing to think about is setting up your identity. Okay, mine is set up as Dr. J, so that's why when I make comments it says Dr. J, so you could modify that. Also putting in an icon for your face makes it kind of nice. Another tip is you might have noticed that you can hear me kind of clicking around when I'm making comments as I'm dragging the draw tool, and as I'm clicking around. If you are on a laptop with a trackpad, anytime you drag, and click, it's going to be especially loud. So I highly recommend that you use a mouse just to lessen kind of the impact of that noise. Just pay attention to that and modify it if you can. It's just going to make the audio a little bit more pleasant. On that same topic, I would use earbuds or earphones anytime you can. I'm not using it right now because it doesn't allow, when I'm using the earbuds, it doesn't allow the screencast to pick up me talking when I'm giving the commenting example, so I didn't use them for this recording, but it does make a huge difference to use those. The only other thing I can think of sharing is that this is a really powerful tool for design. I mean, this is allowing you to talk, draw, and point on your work. And during a time that we need to move to online education, this is the way that you're going to continue to get feedback on your work. And if you use it, you're going to become more comfortable with it. Your instructor, whether you're an instructor or whether you're a student, this is just such a nice tool for us to continue working together and critiquing each other's work and still having dialogue. So I'm pretty confident that you're going to continue using it beyond this semester and for other classes. If you have any questions ever, though, about this software, please reach out to me. I've been using it for many years, and I would love to help you out with any kind of troubleshooting that you're running into. Good luck with all your classes as you move into this online environment. We can do it. You're not alone. Take care, everyone.